Another thing that came out in the report beyond the tiers, there were a couple things that I found particularly interesting. I think in the report, you refer to them as gaps, kind of interesting gaps. So I'm going to talk about those. I'm also going to add a little bit of my commentary before I give you a question.
Yeah.
So the first one was on storytelling and narrative design. This is one of the items. And this one was interesting because people rated it a full point higher themselves. So they personally felt that storytelling and narrative design was very important. But when they rated what they thought how important their employers thought storytelling and narrative design it was a full point lower. That's a lot. That's an enormous gap. And then in the second gap that I think is interesting is that it was data analysis and reporting, and it was the opposite. They felt like their employers felt like data analysis and reporting was a more critical skill for their work than they did. Not by a full point, but there was still a gap kind of in
Yeah.
that other opposite direction. And so these kind of feel connected to me. You can tell me if I'm reaching, although I don't think we have any perfect conclusions here, but it does feel like there's a little bit of a link. I think that people who do the work that we do feel that storytelling does matter. It impacts the quality of our deliverables. It also impacts how memorable what we you know the learning is and how useful it is. Storytelling is so useful from that perspective. But maybe they don't feel like their organizations value it because it's really hard to measure. How do you measure the efficacy of a story as opposed to, something
Yep.
that is not
Exactly.
story driven?
Right.
And then, it's kind of the opposite with data and reporting, right? Very easy to measure something that is certainly usually in many organizations demanded by senior leadership. And so it's interesting that in the self-reporting about where people ranked these things and where their organizations ranked them, it almost felt like a little bit of a critique about their organizations, right? Like our organization maybe is not valuing things in the right way, right? That there is a mismatch in how we think about what is valuable in this work. What gets valued is what's easy to measure. I think we see this again and again. So I don't know. Am I onto something here?